Hello. It's time to reread chapter 11 because I made a boo-boo and forgot to press the record button. So the sea was as flat as gelatin. There was no whisper of wind to ripple the surface. The sun sucked shimmering waves of heat from the water. Now and then, a passing tern would plunge for food and rise again, and the wavelets from its dive became circles that grew without cease. The boat sat still in the water, drifting imperceptibly in the tide. 2 fishing rods in rod holders at the stern trailed wire line into the oily slick that spread westward behind the boat. Hooper sat at the stern, a 20-gallon garbage pail at his side. Every few seconds, he dipped a ladle into the pail and spilled it overboard into the slick. Forward, in 2 rows that peaked at the bow, lay 10 wooden barrels the size of quarter kegs of beer. Each was wrapped in several thicknesses of 3/4-inch hemp, which continued in a 100-foot coil beside the bow. Tied to the end of each rope was the steel head of a harpoon. Brody sat in the swiveled fighting chair bolted to the deck, trying to stay awake. He was hot and sticky. There had been no breeze at all during the 6 hours they had been sitting and waiting. The back of his neck was already badly sunburned, and every time he moved his head and the collar of his uniform shirt raked the tender skin. His body odor rose to his face and blended with the stench of the fish guts and blood being ladled overboard, nauseating him. He felt poached. Brody looked up at the figure on the flying bridge. Quint. He wore a white t-shirt, faded blue jean trousers, white socks, and a pair of graying topsider sneakers. Brody guessed Quint was about 50, and though surely he had once been 20 and would one day be 60, it was impossible to imagine what he would look like at either of those ages. His present age seemed like the age he should always be, should always have been. He was about 6'4", very lean, perhaps 180, 190 pounds. His head was totally bald, not shaven, but there were no telltale black specks on his scalp, but as bald as if he had never had any hair. And when, as now, the sun was high and hot, he wore a Marine Corps fatigue cap. His face, like the rest of him, was hard and sharp. It was ruled by a long, straight nose. When he looked down from the flying bridge, he seemed to aim his eyes, the darkest eyes Brody had ever seen, along the nose as if it were a rifle barrel. His skin was permanently browned and creased by wind and salt and sun. He gazed off the stern, rarely blinking, his eyes fixed on the slick. A trickle of sweat running down Brody's chest made him stir. He turned his head, wincing at the sting in his neck, and tried to stare at the slick. But the reflection of the sun on the water hurt his eyes, and he turned away. "I don't see how you do it, Quint," he said. "Don't you ever wear sunglasses?" Quint looked down and said, "Never." His tone was completely neutral, neither friendly nor unfriendly. It did not invite conversation. But Brody was bored and he wanted to talk. How come? No need to. I see things the way they are. That's better. Brody looked at his watch. It was a little after 2. 3 or 4 more hours before they would give up for the day and go home. Do you have a lot of days like this? The excitement and the anticipation of the early morning had long passed, and Brody was sure they would not sight the fish that day. Like what? Said Quint. Like this, when you sit all day long and nothing happens. Some. And people pay you even though they never catch a thing. Those are the rules. Even if they never get a bite? Quint just nodded. That doesn't happen too often. There's generally something that'll take a bait. Or something we can stick. Stick? With an iron. Quint pointed to the harpoons on the bow. Hooper said, "What kind of things do you stick, Quint?" "Anything that swims by." "Really, I don't..." Quint cut him off. "Something's taking one of the baits." Shading his eyes with his hand, Brody looked off the stern, but as far as he could see, the slick was undisturbed, the water flat and calm. "Where?" he said. "Wait a second," Quint said. "You'll see." With a soft, metallic hiss, the wire on the starboard fishing rod began to feed overboard, knifing into the water in a straight silver line. "Take the rod," Quint said to Brody. "And when I tell you, throw the brake and hit him." "Is it the shark?" said Brody. The possibility that at last he was going to confront the fish, the beast, the monster, the nightmare, made Brody's heart pound. His mouth was sticky dry. He wiped his hands on his trousers, took the rod out of the holder, and stuck it in the swivel between his legs. Quint laughed, a short, sour yip. "That thing? No, that's just a little fella. Give you some practice for when your fish finds us." Quint watched the line for a few more seconds and then said, "Hit it." Brody pushed the small lever on the reel forward, leaned down, and then pulled back. The tip of the rod bent into an arc. With his right hand, Brody began to turn the crank to reel in the fish. But the reel did not respond. The line kept speeding out. "Don't waste your energy," said Quint. Hooper, who had been sitting on the transom, stood up and said, "Here, I'll tighten down the drag." "You will not," said Quint. "You leave that rod alone." Hooper looked up, bewildered and slightly hurt. Brody noticed Hooper's pained expression, and he thought, "What do you know? It's about time." After a moment, Quint said, "If you tighten the drag down too far, and you'll tear the hook out of his mouth." "Okay," said Hooper. "I thought you were supposed to know something about fishing." Hooper said nothing. He turned and sat down on the transom. Brody held onto the rod with both hands. The fish had gone deep and was moving slowly from side to side, but it was no longer taking line. Brody reeled, leaning forward and cranking quickly as he picked up slack, hauling backward with the muscles in his shoulders and back. His left wrist ached, and the fingers in his right hand began to cramp from cranking. "What the hell have I got here?" he said. "A blue," said Quint. "He must weigh half a ton." Quint laughed. "Maybe 150 pounds. Brody hauled and leaned until finally he heard Quint say, "You're getting there. Hold it." He stopped reeling. With a smooth, unhurried motion, Quint swung down the ladder from the flying bridge. He had a rifle in his hand, an old Army M1. He stood at the gunwale and looked down. "Did you want to see the fish?" he said. "Come look." Brody stood and, reeling to take up the slack as he walked, he moved to the side of the boat. In the dark water, the shark was acrylic blue. It was about 8 feet long, slender, with long pectoral fins. It swam slowly from side to side, no longer struggling. "He's beautiful, isn't he?" said Hooper. Quint flicked the rifle's safety to off, and when the shark moved its head to within a few inches of the surface, he squeezed off 3 quick shots. The bullets made clean round holes in the shark's head, drawing no blood. The shark shuddered and stopped moving. "He's dead," said Brody. "Shit," said Quint. "He's stunned, maybe, but that's all." Quint took a glove from one of his hip pockets, slipped his right hand into it, and grabbed the wire line. From his sheath at his belt, he took a knife. He lifted the shark's head clear of the water and bent over the gunwale. The shark's mouth was open 2 or 3 inches wide. Its right eye, partly covered by a white membrane, gazed blankly at Quint. Quint jammed the knife into the shark's mouth and tried to pry it open farther, but the shark bit down, holding the blade in its small, triangular teeth. Quint pulled and twisted until his knife came free. He put it back in its sheath and took a pair of wire cutters from his pocket. "Well, I guess you're paying me enough so I can afford to lose a hook and a little leader," he said. He touched the wire cutters to the leader and was about to snip it. "Wait a minute," he said, putting the cutters back in his pocket and taking out his knife. "Watch this. This always gives the folks a boot." Holding the leader in his left hand, he hoisted most of the shark out of the water. With a single swift motion, he slit the shark's belly from the anal fin to just below the jaw. The flesh pulled apart, and bloody entrails, white and red and blue, tumbled into the water like laundry falling from a basket. Then Quint cut the leader with the wire snips, and the shark slid overboard. As soon as its head was beneath the water, the shark began to thrash in the cloud of blood and innards, biting any morsel that passed into its maw. The body twitched as the shark swallowed, and pieces of intestines passed out the hole in the belly, only to be eaten again. "Now watch," said Quint. If we're lucky, in a minute, other blues will come around and they'll help him eat himself. If we get enough of them, there'll be a real feeding frenzy. That's quite a show. The folks like that. Brody watched, spellbound, as the shark continued to nibble at the floating guts. In a moment, he saw a flash of blue rise from below. A small shark, no more than 4 feet long, snapped at the body of the disemboweled fish. Its jaws closed on a bit of flapping flesh. Its head shook violently from side to side, and its body trembled, snake-like. A piece of flesh tore away, and the smaller shark swallowed it. Soon another shark appeared, and another, and the water began to roil. Flecks of blood mingled with the drops of water that splashed on the surface. Quint took a gaff from beneath the gunwale. He leaned overboard, holding the gaff poised like an axe. Suddenly he lunged and jerked backward. Impaled on the gaff hook, squirming and snapping, was a small shark. Quint took the knife from its sheath, slashed the shark's belly, and released it. "Now you'll see something," he said. Brody couldn't tell how many sharks there were in the explosion of water. Fins crisscrossed on the surface. Tails whipped the water. Amid the sounds of splashes came an occasional grunt as fish slammed into fish. Brody looked down at his shirt and saw that it was splattered with water and blood. The frenzy continued for several minutes until only 3 large sharks remained, cruising back and forth beneath the surface. The men watched in silence till the last of the 3 had vanished. "Jesus," said Hooper. "You don't approve?" said Quint. "That's right. I don't like to see things die for people's amusement." Quint snickered, and Hooper said, "Do you?" Quint responded, "It ain't a question of liking it or not. It's what feeds me." Quint reached into an ice chest and took out another hook and leader. The hook had been baited before they left the dock. A squid, skewered and tied to the shaft and barb of the hook. Using pliers, Quint attached the leader to the end of the wire line. He dropped the bait overboard, fed out 30 yards of line, and let it drift into the slick. Hooper resumed his routine of ladling chum into the water. Brody said, "Hey, anybody want a beer?" Both Quint and Hooper nodded, and so Brody went below and took 3 cans from a cooler. As he left the cabin, Brody noticed 2 old, cracked and curling photographs, thumbtacked to the bulkhead. One showed Quint standing hip deep in a pile of big, strange-looking fish. The other was a picture of a dead shark lying on a beach. There was nothing else in the photograph to compare the fish to, so Brody couldn't determine its size. Brody left the cabin, gave the others their beers, and sat down in the fighting chair. "I saw your pictures down there," he said to Quint. "What are all those fish you're standing in?" "Tarpon," said Quint. "That was a while back when I did some fishing in Florida. I never seen anything like it. We must have got 30, 40 tarpon, big tarpon, in 4 nights fishing." "And you kept them?" said Hooper. "You're supposed to throw them back." Quint replied, "Customers wanted them. For pictures, I guess. Anyway, they don't make bad chum, chopped up." What you're saying is, said Matt Hooper, they're more used dead than alive. Sure. Same with most fish. And a lot of animals, too. I never did try and eat a live steer, Quint laughed. What's the other picture, said Brody. Just a shark? Well, not just a shark. It was a big white, about 14, 15 feet, weighed over 3,000 pounds. Well, how did you catch it? Ironed it. But I tell you, Quint chuckled, for a while there, it was a question of who was going to catch who. Well, what do you mean? Damn thing attacked the boat. No provocation, no nothing. We're sitting out here, minding our own business, when whammo! It felt like we was hit by a freight train. Knocked my mate right on his ass. And the customer started screaming bloody murder that we were sinking. And the bastard hit us again. I put an iron in him and we chased him. Christ, we must have chased him halfway across the Atlantic. How could you follow him? Brody asked. Why didn't he go deep? Couldn't. Not with that barrel following him. They float. He dragged it down for a little while, but before too long the strain got to him and he came to the surface. So we just kept following the barrel. After a couple hours, we got another 2 irons in him. And he finally came up, real quiet. And we threw a rope around his tail and towed him to shore. All the time, that customer's going bullshit, because he's sure we're sinking and gonna get it up. You know the funniest thing? When we got the fish back, and was all tied up safe and sound and not likely to sink, that dumb fuck of a customer comes up to me and offers me $500 if I'll say he caught the fish on hook and line. Can you beat that? Iron holes all over it. And he wants me to swear he caught it on a hook and line. Then he starts giving me some song and dance about how I ought to cut my fee in half because I didn't give him a chance to catch the fish on hook and line. I told him that if I had let him try, I'd be out 1 hook, 300 yards of wire line, probably 1 reel and 1 rod, and definitely 1 fish. Then he says, well, what about all the valuable publicity I'll be getting for a trip he's paying for? I told him he can give me the money and keep the publicity and try and spread it on a cracker for himself and his wife. I wondered about that hook and line business, said Brody. What do you mean? What you were saying, you wouldn't try to catch the fish after on a hook and line, would you? Shit, no. From what I hear, the fish that's been bothering you makes the one we got look like a pup. Then how come the lines are out? Well, 2 reasons. First, a big white might just take a little squid bait like that. It'd cut the line pretty quick. But at least we know he was around. It's a useful telltale. The other reason is you never know what a chum slick will bring around. Even if your fish doesn't show up, we might run into something else that'll take the bait. Well, like what? Who knows? Maybe something useful. I've had swordfish take a drifting squid. With all the federal bullshit about mercury, no one's catching them commercially anymore. So you can get $2.50 a pound for a broad-billed Montauk. Or maybe just something that'll give you a boot in the ass to catch, like a mako shark. If you're paying $400, you might as well have some fun for your money. Well, supposing the big white did come around, said Brody, what would be the first thing you'd do? Quint thought, reflected, and said, try to keep him interested enough so he'd stick around till we could get at him. It's no big trick. They're pretty stupid fish. It depends on how he finds us. If he pulls the same crap the other one did and attacks the boat, we'll just start pumping irons into him as fast as we can, then pull away from him and let him wear himself down. If he takes one of the lines, there'll be no way to stop him if he wants to run. But I'll try to turn him toward us, tighten the drag way down, and take the risk of tearing loose. He'll probably bend the hook out pretty quick, but we might get him close enough for an iron. And once I got one iron in him, it's only a matter of time. Most likely the way he'll come will be following his nose, right up the slick, either on the surface or just below. And that's where we'll have a little trouble. You see, the squid isn't enough to keep him interested. Fish that size will suck a squid right down, not even know he's at it. So we'll have to give him something special that he can't turn down. Something with a big old hook in it that'll hold him at least until we can stick him once or twice. If the hook's too obvious, said Brody, won't he avoid the bait altogether? No. These things don't have the brains of a dog. They eat anything. If they're feeding, you could throw a bear hook down at them and they'll take it if they see it. A friend of mine had one come up once and tried to eat the outboard motor off his dinghy. He only spat it out because he couldn't get it down in one swallow. From the stern, where he was ladling chum, Hooper said, "What's something special, Quint?" "Oh, you mean the special treat he can't turn down?" Quint smiled, and he pointed to a green plastic garbage can nestled in the corner amidships. "Take a look for yourself. It's in that can. I've been saving it for a fish like the one we're after. On anything else, it'd just be a waste." Hooper walked over to the can. He flipped the metal clasps off the sides and he lifted the top. His shock at what he saw made him gasp. Floating vertically in the can full of water, its lifeless head swaying gently with the motion of the boat, was a tiny, bottle-nosed dolphin, no more than 2 feet long. Sticking out from a puncture on the other side of the jaw was the eye of a huge shark hook. And from a hole in the belly, the barbed hook itself curled forward. Hooper clutched the sides of the can and said, "A baby, even better," Quint said with a grin. "Unborn." Hooper gazed into the can for a few more seconds and then slammed the top back on and said, "Where did you get it?" "Oh, I guess about 6 miles from here, due east." "Why?" "I mean, how did you get it?" "How do you think?" "From the mother." "You killed her?" "No," Quint laughed. "She dumped into the boat and swallowed a bunch of sleeping pills." He paused, waiting for a laugh. And when none came, he said, "You can't rightly buy them now, you know." Hooper stared at Quint. He was furious, outraged. But he said only, you know they're protected. Quint looked at Hooper and said, when I fish, son, I catch what I want. But what about laws? What's your line of work, Hooper? I'm an ichthyologist. I study fish. That's why I'm here. Didn't you know that? Quint replied, when people charter my boat, I don't ask questions about them. But, okay, you study fish for a living. If you had to work for a living, the kind of work or the amount of money you make depends on the amount of sweat you put in, you know more about what laws really mean. Sure, those porpoise are protected, but the law wasn't put in to stop Quint from taking one or two for bait. It was meant to stop big time fishing for them, to stop nuts from shooting them for sport. So I'll tell you what, Hooper, you can bitch and moan all you want, but don't tell Quint he can't catch a few fish to help him make a living. Look, Quint, the point is that these dolphins are in danger of being wiped out, extinguished. And what you're doing speeds up that process. Don't give me that horse shit. Tell the tuna boats to stop snaring porpoise in their nets. Tell the Jap longliners to stop hooking them. They'll tell you to take a flying fuck at the moon. They got mouths to feed. Well, so do I. Mine. I get your message, said Hooper. Take it while you can. And if after a while there's nothing left, why, we'll just start taking something else. It's so stupid. Don't overstep, son, said Quint. His voice was flat, toneless, and he looked directly into Hooper's eyes. What? Don't go calling me stupid. Hooper hadn't intended to give offense, and he was surprised to find offense taken. I didn't mean that, for God's sake. I just meant... On his perch, midway between the two men, Brody decided it was time to stop the argument. All right, let's drop it, Hooper, okay? We're not out here to have a debate on ecology. What do you know about ecology, Brody? Said Hooper. I bet all it means to you is someone telling you you can't burn leaves in your backyard. Listen, you, I don't need any of your two-bit rich kid bullshit. So that's it, rich kid bullshit. That rich kid stuff really burns your ass, doesn't it? Listen, damn you, we're out here to stop a fish from killing people, and if using one porpoise will help us save God knows how many lives, that seems to me to be a pretty good bargain. Hooper smirked and said to Brody, so, now you're an expert on saving lives, are you? Let's see. How many could have been saved if you had closed the beaches after the... Brody was on his feet, moving at Hooper before he consciously knew he had left his chair. You shut your mouth, he said reflexively. He dropped his right hand to his hip. He stopped short when he felt no holster at his side, scared by the sudden realization that if he had had a pistol, he might have used it. He stood facing Hooper, who glowered back at him. A quick, sharp laugh from Quint broke the thread of tension. What a pair of assholes. I seen that coming since you came aboard this morning. Chapter. Should I stop it or no?
Is it running?
It's running, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, stop it.
Hi. Elisa and I are about to do the commentary for Chapter 11. It was a short chapter, but also a very emotional and sort of harrowing chapter. So without any further ado, Fire away, Lisa. What are your thoughts, observations, or questions regarding
Well, how did you
chapter
emotionally
11?
react to what takes place in this chapter? Because I know that I was upset and I was disturbed. And I was also reflective because I had brought up in chapter 10 when the question was, who do you feel sympathetic for in this chapter? And I always felt sympathetic towards Brody, but I also felt sympathetic towards the shark because the shark is just being a shark. The shark is just a machine that eats, doesn't know it's eating people, doesn't really know what it's doing, and it was just, it's nature. So
That's true and that's fair. However, I don't have any sympathy for the shark, just because of my value system and how I hold lives of humans up here, and every other animal, domestic or wild, are below human lives.
how did you feel reading this chapter?
Well, again, it's interesting because I think there are some very stark differences between men and women, and I think this is a perfect example of those differences. Like again, as I was reading it, without you even making any reactions or something, I already knew that you're going to be very disturbed and upset about the content of this chapter. Because
you said differences between men and women, but Hooper is also upset.
Hooper is also, yeah, of course.
It's like, I don't see why you need to do this to entertain people because they pay. Like, you're going out fishing. There's no guarantee that you're going to catch a fish. Doesn't mean that you should be entertained with this grotesque sideshow.
So hold on. I presume you're referring to cutting the shark open from.
Yeah, we don't need to go through it all again. We heard it once.
Okay, but I'm saying, I presume that's what you're referring to, and that, again, Hooper makes it out like, oh, this always goes over big, people love this, because what invariably happens is...
Quint, not Hooper.
I'm sorry, Quint. He says, this always goes over big, meaning that when the blood and guts are coming to the water, the shark is such an eating machine that he eats his own guts, does not even realize it, because as soon as he eats it, it comes right back out again, because he's all cut open. And then, of course, the actual, I think, objective of that barbaric sort of exercise is to induce a feeding frenzy of other sharks. So, like that, again, Hooper's livelihood is, tied directly to boats, fishing, chartering, etc. And I think that Hooper has a completely different sense of life than, Quint has a completely different sense of life and sense of ethics and morality than Hooper does. And interestingly enough, I would go on to say that I also think that Brody has a different sense of life and a different sense of ethics and morality than either of the other two men. I think that's what makes the story so great, is that they introduce these characters and there's tension between Hooper and Brody for obvious reasons, and there's also some tension between Quint and Brody and Quint and Hooper. So this is extremely good writing on the part of Benchley, because that's what good writing is about, creating conflict and tension, and then sometimes it resolves and sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, the essence of a good novel or good writing is the ability to create, the ability to draw well-drawn characters and then create conflict. And of course, if there's going to be conflict between characters, it has to be based on a difference in morality and ethics. I mean, that's how you end up with conflict. Mm-hmm. So, all right, where were we?
I just asked you how you felt emotionally reading.
For me, my thing is this. I think because I am an objectivist, I think that I can actually understand Quint's position, and I could also understand Hooper's position, and I could also understand Brody's position, because I have the ability to pretend that I don't have the ethics and morality that I do, and I can very easily put myself into the position of each of those characters, and I have to imagine what their ethics and morality are, and what their values are, and so that's really, again, this is tremendous literature. Just, I think that's what, I think that's what it really comes down to. Conflict is typically moral conflict. I mean, it could be physical conflict, it could be emotional conflict, but really, when you get right down to it, the conflict.
Well, when you look at it that way, then if you're looking at the moral and ethics of Quint, then you're not going to be disturbed by the baby dolphin. You're not going to be disturbed by the tarpon that he was supposed to throw back, and he didn't. He just chopped it up as chunks.
And honestly, I wasn't disturbed by any of that.
Just
But you have to understand something, Lisa. I do have great respect for nature, and I love not just man. I love animals and plants and pets and all living things. But let's not forget, I was a deer hunter too. I've shot and killed deer, and had eaten the deer I shot and killed, and it's just it's again, here we go. As I haven't hunted in quite some time, but I'm saying, as a hunter, if you want to imagine like conflict, well, just imagine me trying to have a conversation with a vegan or one of these people. You want to talk about conflict of morality and ethics. They would be aghast at my behavior and what I had done. And me, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with killing an illegal deer and consequently eating that legal deer. But for people who don't eat any meat at all, for people who just, I personally find the whole vegan ethical thing off base, because of the fact that, well, what do you eat? You eat plants and vegetables? Well, when a farmer digs to plant the soybeans that you eat, all kinds of moles, all animals that live in the dirt are killed. So where does it stop?
So is the vegetable.
Huh?
So is the vegetable.
Well, I'm saying, where does it stop? That you know what I'm saying? Where do you get off the merry-go-round over? I mean, I know. I remember one person that said they don't need anything with a central nervous system, which, again,
who do you think was more? Well, is there really any? I mean, who do you think was in control, most in control?
In this chapter?
In this chapter.
Well, there's no question, in my opinion, because the whole chapter occurs on the Orca. Mm. Quint is clearly the dominant character and the dominant male. If there's a hierarchy going, it's definitely Quint is at the top of the hierarchy. Again, we could probably have a conversation whether it's Hooper and Brody or Brody than Hooper. That, I think, is open for discussion. But as far as I'm concerned, this is Quint's domain. This is where he lives and breathes, and I think Quint is clearly.
I think that it was Hooper.
What's that?
I think it was Hooper.
I think Hooper was
the most in control in that chapter.
Whoa, hold on. You say in control? Mm-hmm. No, that's not what you had said earlier. When you said, I thought you meant who was in control. I thought you meant in control of the other two men or the situation.
Yeah, who do you believe is most controlled? And you said out of these three men, and I said yes. And you said most definitely Quint.
Right, but the issue is denotation or connotation. When you said most in control, I took that to mean.
You asked for clarification.
Okay, but I answered the question.
You said most definitely Quint. It's his boat.
Right. The context that I was speaking about was you got three men, and they're all pushing and pulling and fighting and everything. And I thought you meant which of the three men was most in.
Well, I meant it any way that you meant it. You know, what do you mean when you think about control? What do you think is most like? Did you see any kind of dynamic, any kind of shift with these three men now being on this boat together? Did you see any kind of a dynamic?
Well, so Quint is clearly the expert on the boat, in the water, and also the whole purpose of the three men being on that boat is to try and kill that shark.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that makes Hooper at the top. I'm sorry, Hooper. Quint is at the top of that hierarchy. But I'm only speaking in that context. So that's why I said in that context, you can make a case for Quint, Hooper, Brody, but you can also make a case for Quint, Brody, Hooper. But
I didn't find Brody in control at all.
So
I'm a Brody fan.
I understand, but I don't think I'm understanding what you mean when you say in control. Are you talking about in control?
You're in a situation where three men are in a boat, okay? Three different personalities, and you have the dynamic between. You hear Quint say it at the end. I saw this dynamic when you two assholes came on the boat.
Yes.
You got that dynamic because that's the way Benchley leaves things. He always pulls a rabbit out of the hat at the end.
Well, I mean,
and then you have Quint, who they're both seem to be. I think Brody is really relying on Quint because Hooper had said chapters back, "Are you really going to hire this guy? He's a lunatic." And he's like,
I'll say it like this, Elisa. I think that Quint is a man who is absolutely full of confidence and self-esteem because he's on his boat.
"Oh yeah,
he's in the ocean,
yeah.
and his mission, his goal is to kill that shark."
Yeah.
Now, I would say that between the two remaining characters,
Yeah.
Brody would probably be number 3 because Brody doesn't feel that comfortable, A, being on the boat, B, fishing. Like, again, he's not a fisherman. He's not a fisherman.
I have a question.
He's not. Do we have a foofy point of view?
I have a question.
I think that Brody doesn't feel that comfortable, or even.
He's fidgety, he's bored, he's hot.
Well, but again, he's all sunburned. But I'm saying, and don't forget, he went for his gun.
Well, that's why I said Brody. No, he would have shot him.
But again, that's an amazing.
Yeah, he's being. He's able to be triggered.
No, that's an amazing device that Benchley used, where the cop, when there's danger or something, immediately goes for his gun on his hip.
There was no danger.
But
He
it's
was
not.
asking.
Well, no, you're missing my point. He already suspects that Hooper had an affair with his wife. He does not like Hooper at all, and so. What prompted that? What was the reason?
He said,
"Oh,
you're
yeah,
an expert in saving lives now.
Here we
Why
go.
don't you close the beach?"
Here we go again.
Yeah.
That was a moral judgment that Hooper made on Brody. Mm-hmm. He basically said, "What do you know about saving lives? If you would close the beach, you know how many lives would we have saved?" And that really just he knew exactly where to push. What button to push on Brody. And again, he's playing with fire because...
I don't even know that it's a button to push. I think it's an observation. I think that he's starting to see that Brody is like... you got a badge and you got a gun, but you got no fucking common sense. You should have morally stepped up and you should have closed this fucking beach.
No. First of all...
Listen,
wait a minute.
Opinion.
Hold
this
on.
is my opinion.
That's fine, but first of all, didn't Hooper... say, the shark's probably going to be okay to open the beaches?
It doesn't matter. You can take everybody's advice into consideration, but then you have to weigh it out for yourself. And he knew in his gut, until I know definitively that this thing is gone. Because if he really was going to just take Hooper's advice, why did they stake everybody out? You know, I'm over here, you're over there, and you're out there.
But I'm saying you shouldn't be dropping the context.
No, I'm not dropping any context. This is just me thinking now Was he really pushing his button? He was calling him out morally and saying, and he only gets mad because he knows that he's right. I should have closed that beach.
That's true, but I think that I don't think Matt Hooper was calling out Brody in a fair and a fair and passionless evaluation or judgment. No, he wanted to hurt him, and that's why I said it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, different perspective. All right, so
what else?
I had that, the last chapter we asked the question, who do you sympathize with most? And after this chapter, do you still feel the same way? And for me, it was Brody, and it was Shark. And I think in this chapter, I sympathize with Hooper because he really did keep himself in control, being in the position and the profession that he was
Hooper
in, and witnessing this freaking nut job do what he was doing to fish that he studies and not having any respect for them or respect for the fact that these fish are endangered and just for your own entertainment.
I think Quint made his own moral argument. I think Quint said that. Quint said that, hey, the porpoises are not on the endangered list for guys like me. Porpoises are on the endangered list for commercial fishermen.
No, but you killed a pregnant mother. What did you do? Did you kill him? He said no. She got on board and she
took
got
sleeping
drunk.
pills.
Yeah, took sleeping pills. I mean, he's a jerk.
I disagree with you.
He's a jerk because he has no respect for the other person that he is dealing with.
Oh, no respect for Hooper.
You know what Hooper does?
Yeah, well,
talk about pushing buttons.
That's irrelevant to Quint. Quint's not a man who takes into consideration the people on his boat that are chartering the boat. Quint is
he does take into consideration the people that are on his boat, chartering his boat.
Well, he does.
Because he doesn't stick to the fact that there's no guarantee that you can't catch a fish, but I will do something really grotesque to entertain you. So he does give a crap.
That's fair, but Quint's attitude is, this is how I make my living, and I'm not going to be I'm not going to have my hands tied behind my back by the government, by you or anybody else.
I'm just saying, in the end, from last chapter, I felt sorry for Brody and I felt sorry for the shark. But in this chapter, I feel sorry for Hooper because he had to bear witness to all this, and he kept his wits about him. And he asked questions, and he was cut short every time he asked a question, no matter what it was. So.
But again, what you see in this chapter is
snot nose.
What you see in this chapter is you see Quint in his element. You see Quint cutting people off and saying, "Stay right there. Pull this line when I." Quint is in his element, and again, the only person, and I think this is pretty much established in the book, is that the only person who could possibly kill that shark is this guy.
So who did you sympathize with last week?
I think
2 weeks ago?
I think I said Brody as well, even though I might have said something different. But then when you brought up Brody, I said, yeah, well, because I think, again, in the story, the whole narrative, the whole story, I think Brody is the protagonist of the book, and I also think Brody is the character that everything revolves around, and I also think Brody is, of all the characters in this book, the most decent, moral person in the book. Obviously, it ain't going to be the mayor, it ain't going to be the tourist from Queens, it ain't going to be Hooper, it ain't going to be Ellen. Yeah. And it ain't going to be, and Quint,
And how about the guys that work from Hendrix and...
Yeah, those guys are productive and honest, but you could see that they look up to and admire Chief Brody, And so I think that Brody is the moral authority of this book, Again, and look, as I've said to you so many times, people are complicated and people can sometimes be contradictory too, because Brody's not this perfect man or this perfectly moral person, you know, he's a little bit of an asshole towards his wife on occasion too. So
I, had asked I had brought up the last chapter too. I was reminded of Eddie Murphy doing that skit about, Siegfried and Roy, and they were training the white tigers and everything else, and then, people were like, oh my God, what happened? Like, these
it's
tigers,
a tiger being a tiger.
And Eddie Murphy was like, the tiger was being a tiger. And I use that as an example because I have to say, for as badly, I can't remember which one of them was attacked. I don't know them by name, but I know Siegfried and Roy, but I don't know who's who.
No, I don't know either, but it doesn't matter.
Whichever one was attacked,
the other guy,
he didn't blame the nature of the tiger for being a tiger after everything was happening. So can we blame the shark for being a shark? And what do we learn? What do we learn about?
Listen.
What do we learn from the fear that we have when nature reacts?
Let's do it this way. Now, every entity in nature, and if you want to just limit it to animals, every animal in nature has, by its own nature, its way. So, like, again, man is the rational animal.
I don't think so, but go ahead.
Well, you do understand. You do understand. No other animal on the planet can do what man can do conceptually.
I understand that. Okay, so you're calling man rational. Can we blame the shark for being a shark?
We cannot blame the shark for being a shark.
Stop there. Okay, can we blame the lion for being a lion?
No, Elisa.
Can we blame a tiger for being a tiger?
So
stop there. Just answer me.
That's fine. That's fine. But I don't know. He's probably looking for something's on there. But I'm saying.
Listen. You're calling man rational when he decides to get into a cage, or he decides to train a tiger. I don't find anything rational about that.
You're missing. I'm speaking.
No, I'm not.
I'm speaking in the broadest possible abstraction.
Go ahead.
That
I understand how you're speaking.
Man is what is the nature of man and humankind? The nature, what makes man, is his ability to conceptualize. No other animal on the planet can do that. Okay, so my point is...
Conceptualize and rationalize are two different things.
Rational and conceptual are the same thing. Listen, just because man is the conceptual animal, to think and understand in principle and think conceptually requires volition. It doesn't happen automatically.
Correct.
Not everybody knows how to think and use logic and reason, and that's okay. It doesn't invalidate that that's the nature of man. He's a conceptual animal. But I'm saying, so what are you trying to say? That these people, because they went in the water, it's on them?
No, I think that man,
again,
let's just use Siegfried and Roy because I think most people know that. What makes you want to train a tiger? You don't respect the nature of the tiger.
So you're saying don't ever go in the ocean. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not. I'm saying respect the ocean and respect what's in it. It's the same thing with people that keep birds in cages.
How did Alex Kintner fail to respect the ocean? How did Christine Watkins fail to respect the ocean? How did Ben Gardner fail to respect the ocean?
Of course, they didn't know what was being met out there. But anytime you go into the ocean or you go somewhere,
there's a possibility.
There's a possibility, but you respect the nature of these animals. I mean, there was nothing like 2020 when we were all locked in and we were all we weren't allowed to go anywhere. That documentary of how the Earth changed during 2020 was heartbreaking and spellbinding. The way that the animals reacted to the people not treading on their nature.
Oh.
I don't know if you saw it. No, it's unbelievable. But, what I'm saying is like, can you blame a shark for being a shark?
No, but again, I've already said this. I've already said this. Human life here, all other animal life.
Yes, but what I don't understand, what makes a man not respect nature.
You keep saying that.
Okay,
but
stop.
But we're talking about this book.
Stop.
Which one of the victims respect nature?
Stop. It's the same thing. But can you blame a shark for being a shark? No. Can you blame a tiger, a lion, anything for being what they are? No, you can't. But it's the same thing with somebody that goes and buys a bird and sticks it in a cage.
No one is arguing against your point. We concede it. How is it relevant to this story?
because I said what my follow-up to that is, what do we learn about our own fear of nature when it behaves the way it's meant to? What do we learn?
I don't learn nothing. I know what nature is, and I know, like, again, you see these Darwin Award winners that, get out of their car with a camera and go up to a lion or a bear, and, they're ripped to shreds. Like, so, I mean, I don't do that. Again, I've been out in the woods alone many, many times, and I have great respect for nature and all her many manifestations.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just expressed what I learned about my fear.
Which is why?
About animals. You fear an animal when you don't respect it. And we have this conversation with this one right here, with the cat that you're holding. You don't listen to the cues that he gives you, the language that he's using. Look what he's doing right now. He doesn't want to be held, so let him go.
Go, Foofy. Fly away, Brody.
Oh, all right. So you and I, the last question is that we watched Jaws at 50.
Right.
So this book was written 50 years ago?
51. The book was written in 74. The movie came
51.
out in 75.
So what parallels can we draw, because I have one in particular, between the book being written 50 years ago and what we saw at Jaws at 50?
I'm not sure I understand.
What parallels can you draw between this chapter that we just read
this chapter
and the stories told in the 50th documentary?
Honestly, and I mean this very sincerely.
Don't remember.
I can't even think of one thing that I saw or read in the 50th anniversary. Well,
so
what is
I'll
it?
answer it. I don't believe that this whole chapter with Quint was in the movie, where you saw Quint saying, "Oh, like this is," I don't think that we saw Quint pull a shark out of the water and everything else.
No, none of that.
Okay. However, if you remember in the documentary, they were talking about how people were killing sharks, how they were cutting their fins.
Oh, you mean in real life after the release of Jaws, people were afraid of sharks and they were killing sharks. Yeah. Well, it's a typical knee-jerk reaction that humans are capable of.
And hunt sharks. And,
listen, the one thing I will tell you is this: man, even though he's the rational animal, and that's what his nature is, man is incredibly avaricious, greedy, and stupid. Mm-hmm. Like, we literally had the whole of the Midwest just covered in bison and buffalo, and they literally hunted them to extinction. There was the plains were covered with bison, and then the Indians would kill a bison, and they would make meat, and they would make blankets and teepees out of the fur, and they would make tools out of the bones, this and that. But it was only when the white man got told, "Hey, listen, where we like bison are valuable, and if you bring me a bison fur, I'll give you $5 for one, and if you bring me whatever the meat from they were just killing them indiscriminately just so they could make a couple bucks from the fur, and then a lot of times they would just let the meat spoil. Again, I'm not condoning these things, because like I said, I never killed anything I didn't eat.
So I will say I bought my book, and there was not really anything that changed.
No, that should be the same as this.
Same, and that's it. I think I don't have any more questions or comments other than rest in peace, Ozzy.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe
the Oz man.
I
can't believe
I was talking to him about today.
He literally maybe it's me, but I want to say that concert they did with the original four members, Ozzy, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Billy Ward. Yeah. Like, that just happened.
It just happened.
And now he's gone.
One of my members, her name is the Oz Angel, and she said, "Elise, I'm doing your Raven event. Do you mind if I do the same canvas that you're doing because my daughter is named Raven. And I said, no, of course not. Do the same canvas that I'm doing. I would love it. And she said, oh, not the Raven event. I think it's the Witch event. And so she said, oh, yeah, it was the Raven event. And I was telling her about the Witch event. And I said, you're going to love Kristen. She's going to be on next Tuesday on my live. And guess what? I saw on her Facebook page that she's an Ozzy fan like you, and I watched him singing "Mama, I'm Coming Home."
I gotta be honest.
She said it's the last time you'll see this.
I did not.
People are crying, and he's gone.
I did not see the entire performance of Black Sabbath doing that final show, but I did see some, and I heard people talking about it and all, and like
people were crying in the
But hold on,
audience
I'm saying like I heard like again, I don't want to name the guy's name, but you know the person I'm speaking about. He's a musician and all, and I heard him talking about like how great it sounded. And me honestly,
it was.
I did not think Ozzy sounded that great, and I mean he was sitting in that throne, that chair, and I think he was incapable of standing and singing like so. I think he was.
I know he has Parkinson's.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, Parkinson's. Yeah.
I don't know. Again, it's fortunately for me, I seen Black Sabbath. You know,
You saw everybody. There's nobody that you didn't say you.
But anyway,
say goodnight, Gracie.
we're gonna give you a little full feed before we go. There you go.
He knows me, Foofy. Mommy knows you, Foofy.
Come here, full feed.
Mommy knows you.
Come on, my fat monkey. Come here.
See, look at him. He's got that. He's already starting to get anxiety because you're coming next to him.
I'm gonna sit with your dear old dad.
No, leave me alone. Say no, Foofy. Foofy, say no. Foofy, say no. Stop it with him.
He likes it.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
Look, he's going over now to go scratch his nails because you give him anxiety.
He's
what
a
he does.
boy. Tell her, Foof, we're men.
I know, Dad. You come over here next to me. He won't bother you.
Come on, you want to come sit with your daddy? Come on, Foof.
I got to go get ready for a live that's happening like in a half an hour.
Come on, Foof.
Hope you enjoyed the chapter.
Come on, Foof.
Bye.